Well, hey friends, I hope everyone's doing well. You know, I'm sitting here thinking on this kind of rainy morning here in Arkansas, and I've had this on my mind lately. I've been wanting to do a video about it, and so I'm going to give it a try this morning. This is just off the top of my head sort of thing. But, you know, I think that for every guitar player that plays bluegrass and acoustic music, you can't help but be influenced by Tony Rice. I know I certainly was when I started playing guitar 35 plus years ago. Tony was my biggest influence, and like so many others, I wanted to play like Tony, and I learned a lot of his licks and tried to play those licks like Tony did for a long lot of years, you know. And I could play some of them. But, of course, I never played it like Tony, but then no one does. But that got me to thinking, you know, the other day I've been thinking a lot about music as I get older. You know, I'm definitely not a teenager anymore or even a 20 or 30-year-old. So I can kind of look back now with all these years behind me and think about these things. And the one thing I would tell a young player that's starting out or, you know, is wanting to learn and go somewhere in music, the one thing I think I would recommend more than anything now is to develop your own style. And I know, you know, I just talked about Tony Rice. I know this is one thing Tony himself has said in his instructional videos and workshops. I mean, some of them that I've seen and heard online, and some of the homespun tapes, Tony himself will tell you that he got tired of hearing people try to play just, you know, his stuff. And like he said, he's already been there and done that, you know, so you're never gonna surpass the person that started a style. And Tony said for you to come up with your own identity and, you know, share that with the world, because he's already done what he's done, you know. And that's the one thing I hear a lot of players today when I listen to this music, some of the modern things being done out there, current things. You know, there's so many things that I can discuss on this channel that I want to preserve the history of the music, that sometimes I don't really listen or focus as much on the current bands as I probably should. I need to do better about that. But like I say, the one thing that I do hear going on that I wish could change is it seems like every guitar player, and when I say every, that doesn't mean every single one. You know, there are players out there that have got their own identity and they're doing well with that. But it seems like a whole lot of players anymore, they all try to be like Tony Rice, you know. So a majority of guitar players are trying to be like Tony Rice, and it seems like a lot of the mandolin players are trying to be a cross between Adam Steffey and Chris Thile or Sierra Hull. All great players, but again, if I want to hear Adam Steffey, I'm going to listen to Adam Steffey, you know. If I want to hear Sierra Hull, I'm going to listen to Sierra Hull. I'm not going to listen to someone else trying to take the identity that they've established for themselves, you know, and playing it themselves. You know, I'm not going to want to listen to that, you know, over the person that come up with it. So you have mandolin players trying to play in that style, guitar players trying to play like Tony Rice, and I'm sure a lot of banjo players are playing style of J.D. Crowe, which again, these are all great players, but what made them great? Well, the main thing was they had their own identity. You know, you can hear Tony Rice play and you know it's Tony Rice. Even when he's just playing rhythm, you can tell when he's the one playing rhythm on a recording. Sam Bush got his own style. I've heard Tony Rice say, and this is true, you can hear Sam Bush play two notes, you know, and you know it's Sam Bush. David Grisman had his own mandolin style. You can hear him play just a few notes and know, hey, that's David Grisman, you know. Bill Monroe absolutely had his own thing going on. I mean, before him, mandolin really wasn't taken seriously as a lead instrument in this country, you know. J.D. Crowe had his own style. You know, he took what he learned from Earl Scruggs and put his own twist on it, you know. But that's the one thing that I wish bands now would concentrate on, all the players individually and I guess collectively as bands, you know. Don't try to sound like these other players, although they're great. And I'm not saying not to listen to those players and take some of their things, but what I'm saying is to take something from all of these great players, whatever instrument that you play. If you play guitar, listen to Tony Rice, listen to Norman Blake, listen to Dan Crary, you know, listen Brian Sutton. There's so many great guitar players that you can take something from all of them. And it took me a long time myself to come to that realization. I know I kind of went from Tony Rice to being a huge Norman Blake fan, and then Dan Crary, Doc Watson, and you can take something from all of them. And now anymore, when I hear something in my head trying to develop a break for a song or come up with an original tune, now I've been able to take my influences and filter them through me in my creative process, and it comes out sounding like something I come up with. It sounds like my style. Same thing on mandolin. You know, I kind of have my own mandolin style, good or bad. I don't know. But anyway, it sounds like me. But if I had one piece of advice to give you young players out there, or any player, any band, you know, it would be to develop your own identity. And talking about bands, that's another thing. Bands used to have their own identity, way more so than they do now. I mean, think about it. Flatt and Scruggs, Bill Monroe, they had their own sounds. Jim and Jesse had their own sound. The Osborne brothers had their own sound. The Stanley brothers had their own sound in this music. And then bands that come after them, there were several that had their own identity, their own sound. Bluegrass Cardinals, Hot Rise, you know, Virginia Squires, they all had their own identity, their own songs, their own sound, where when you heard them on the radio or you were at a bluegrass festival out picking under the shade tree and you could hear the band that was on stage, you knew who it was because they had their own sound. You know, nowadays, so many people sound alike that it's really kind of, in ways when it's like that, it kind of makes the music a little less interesting than it used to be. So that's a piece of advice I would give. And I've been around music a long time. I mean, so I do have a little bit of knowledge about things, but that would be my advice right there. Take it or leave it. What do you think? Do you think that what I said makes any sense? Should people work at developing their own identity? If you would, let me know in the comments. And again, thank you for watching the channel. And I would appreciate if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel too. That would really help me out. And I sure appreciate it when you take time to do that. Again, thank you for watching, and I look forward to talking to you next time. Bye-bye.